How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Falcons Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. This time for this new episode for this series is going to be my review on the 2024 dark fantasy comedy horror film, and this is the sequel to the 1988 classic, and that is, of course, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Now, this sequel was directed once again by Tim Burton, who helmed the original 1988 classic. And in this film, after a family tragedy, 3 generations of the Deeds family return home to Winter River, and still being haunted by Beetlejuice, who's once again played by Michael Keaton, we see that Lydia, who's once again played by Winona Ryder, that her life has turned upside down when her teenage daughter Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. So that's pretty much the story of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Now, what is there to say about the original film? It is such an icon when it comes to horror comedies, and it was also the film that made Tim Burton a household name, even though, yeah, his first film, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, is great, but it definitely did show what Tim Burton was able to bring out for his movies in terms of his directing talent, from the style that he always puts into his movies, which I tend to enjoy when it comes to his movies. And while in recent years he hasn't made like an original film for quite some time, even though for some of his last few films he's made in most modern time, the one I tend to enjoy the most of, has, in my opinion, is Frankenweenie, which for that film, I really liked how that film was able to have the Tim Burton style, as well as also being adapted of something and being stretched out together in the film here that made it so original. And also in recent years, for some of his films, they've mostly been like remakes and stuff, and a few of his other films have been like less memorable from some of his other films that are well known for being such memorable hits that he's made over the last few years and decades. And usually when it comes to sequels to all the films, they mostly focus on like nostalgia stuff and all that, but there have been quite a few of them that I tend to enjoy the most of, and while there's been a few that didn't really appreciate me that much. But the only one I tend to enjoy the most of when it comes to those kind of movies, in my opinion, is Top Gun Maverick, which even though in that film it did have some similarities to the original film, but it did manage to have a deep storytelling and some characters that I found myself really connected with throughout the majority of the film. And that film was an absolute blast when I saw it, and it definitely felt like a return to some of blockbusters and stuff like that. But as for me going into the sequel, I did rewatch the original film, and I still think it holds up to this day from being such an iconic horror comedy classic. And so I did recently just check out this film today, and I just got back from seeing this movie today. And after watching this whole sequel here, it is safe to say that Tim Burton did not disappoint me here with the sequel here, because I overall had a great, fun, yet spooky time here with Beetlejuice Beetlejuice here. The story for the sequel, I actually found it really appealing, and yet I really appreciate here where it's not retelling the same story from the original, in which in the original we follow a couple who die in an accident and they come back as ghosts, and they find out a family's moved into their home and they try to scare off the family while they're being as ghosts. Well, as for this movie, we see the relationship of Lydia and her family, including her teenage daughter Astrid, and we see that Lydia is having problems of her own. She's trying to deal with all of them, which for that aspect of the film, it didn't make much sense to me, but the film manages to explain a lot more and make much more sense out of that once the film goes later down the line and all of that. And I did appreciate that. And the film definitely does have some similarities to the original, which I thought that aspect of the film, I thought, was really well handled here, from paying homage to the original classic here. And I thought the film did a really good job from handling all that here. And as for its pacing, it did feel rough in the beginning of the film, but it does manage to pick itself up once we do get to see Beetlejuice again and all of that. And as for the production sets, I actually found it very convincing, and yeah, I really loved here where it's trying to be like the original, and I thought this film definitely did pay a lot of respect to the original film, where it's trying to be like that all over again here with the sequel from its production sets here. And the effects in this movie as well I thought were very well handled here, from the amount of puppetry that we do see in the film here. Although the sandworm is CGI, but I did appreciate how the film manages to make him look like he was made from stop motion, just like in the original. And the makeup as well, I thought, was really amazing. And yet the film doesn't even shy away when it comes to some of the disturbing imagery that we do see in the film here. when we do see some other ghosts in the film here and how they died, which all of that I really liked. And I thought Tim Burton did a really great job from not shying away when it came to some of the disturbing imagery that we do see in the sequel, as well as with showcasing everything else in the film that I thought were really amazing here, from the makeup to the effects and the sets and all of that. And when it comes to the acting, everyone's phenomenal. Like, Michael Keaton is once again phenomenal as Beetlejuice. And yet, it feels like he hasn't aged a lot since the original, because he is still a lot of fun in the movie. And yet, he does have a bit more screen time than the original in this film here. And you've got Winona Ryder returning as Lydia, and she's just once again great in the sequel. And Catherine O'Hara is just once again really entertaining like she was in the original. And as for some of the new people in this film, like I said, you've got Justin Theroux, who plays Rory. I thought he was really fun in the movie. Monica Bellucci, I thought was really good as the villain Dolores. Jenna Ortega, I thought was really good as Astrid. And Willem Dafoe, who plays this cop actor named Wolf, I thought he was really entertaining in the sequel here. So all in all, guys, Beetlejuice was definitely a really fun, spooky sequel here to such an iconic horror comedy film. And if you're overall a huge fan of the original film, or you're a fan of director Tim Burton, or any of the actors like Michael Keaton or anyone else, this is definitely one you don't want to miss out for yourselves here. And I can definitely say to Tim Burton, nice sequel. I'm going to give Beetlejuice 4 out of 5. As I said, this sequel is definitely a lot of fun here, although I wouldn't necessarily say this is definitely better than the original film here, because the original is still an iconic classic, but this still is a lot of fun here. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my AK After I Saw review on Beetlejuice, and let me know what you think of the sequel. If you just recently checked out the sequel, did you have fun with this, or did you not really appreciate the sequel? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Fogan's Media Corner signing off.